Saturday morning here from the luxurious Louisiana vs. All Y'all Studios in downtown Baton Rouge and Louisiana vs. All Y'all Studios West in Austin, Texas. I'm Jarrett Roser. He's Sam Spiegelman. And I'm excited because we have some bangers of topics to get to today, just in terms of some notable news, some of the top Louisiana natives, because we're going to talk about a guy that's finishing up high school down in Florida, but he's a native that is a highly ranked Louisiana native that was the top Louisiana prospect in this 27 class. But some Louisiana prospects announcing college commitments. Honestly, we've got some great episodes today and next week, but we'll save some of that intrigue for next week. Sam, we're going to get into it in a second. How are you doing this Saturday morning? How is your energy level kicking off the weekend?
It's extremely low, but we're going to power through it. What's hyping me, what's giving me this juice is I can sense the bittersweetness in your voice introducing Zyron. A former Blue Jay, just calling out for a little bit of help, a little bit of empathy. But listen, I woke up probably the time I responded to your text, which of course was an infamous photo of Calvary's defensive coordinator. And you know what, a fantastic dad, coach, and human. And that gave me a little bit of life too. So slow, it's 10:08 local time, Central Time, the only time that we can go by. And I'm surviving. I treated my cactus outside. I walked the dogs. I'm dealing with this Dyson jam situation. I am jammed up by Dyson, and they're about to get jammed up on this Saturday call line because I got to get out to Lowe's. I got to do some more cleaning. I got a couple of junior days to keep track of. It's all going to fall on Dyson's customer service in about 2 hours or so.
Yeah. Mark Miller passing through Baton Rouge to on his way to a 7-on-7 tournament in Hammond, tearing up the roads, making sure he's as involved with football and soccer and everything else that he does year round and all over the state. So excited to have him down this way this weekend. Let's get into the Zyron Forstall. You mentioned his name first among these prospects. He was a guy that was the number one prospect in Louisiana, one of the top handful of prospects nationally. He transferred this past summer, as we talked about at length, over to IMG Academy. He's someone that was really a priority in this class for the previous LSU staff. He is now an IMG Academy guy who is committed to Texas A&M as of fittingly my birthday eve. The former Jesuit star commits to Texas A&M, and so we don't have to go into unpacking there about Zyron trying to break my heart twice over in a span of a year. But what has occurred? I hadn't been able to keep up with him much the last several months, but what led him to an Aggies announcement on March 31st, and then we'll get into just the fantastic player, obviously, that SEC foe of the Tigers landed.
Yeah, you had mentioned LSU kind of started to fall out of this race, I would say, during his junior season. Texas A&M, Miami, and really Notre Dame was probably a close second for Zyron as he navigated this process. But he's been to A&M ample times. The addition of Elijah Robinson, who has been there, done that, on top of Tony Gerard-Eddy, who's been spearheading his recruitment. Mason Smith has strong ties to Zyron. He camped at Texas and at Texas A&M last summer going into his junior year, and both staffs were just enamored with him. You have Alan Clark at Texas, who really took a liking to Zyron, but A&M propelled forward. Obviously, if you look at the draft and what they do with front seven players, they know how to utilize different body types, different skill sets at an extremely high clip. If you look at their D-line now, the guys that are getting drafted, the guys that are replacing the guys that are getting drafted, all different skill sets. And if there's a coaching staff in the SEC, which was a big deal for Zyron, Mike Elko being a defensive-minded head coach is kind of a dime a dozen. It's hard to find. All the pieces kind of fell in place for Zyron. And of course, obviously, being from Louisiana, it's close enough for family to get there pretty frequently.
Just, a monster player. He was so much fun to watch, as we talked about early on in his development. He's this long, still, he was strong but thinner version of himself as a young guy who's running out there in 7-on-7s, patrolling the middle of the field with with our buddy Corey Hardy's groups when he was still a middle school age kid, and he's out there running around, looking like he's older than everyone else on the field, but flying around at that size. And then he continued to hit that weight room through those years at Jesuit and just fill out that body, become that much more of a force while still having the athleticism and versatility to move all over that Blue Jays defense. And now he's obviously out in IMG Academy, one of the premier, football programs and, development programs out there in Bradenton, Florida. And I'm so excited, regardless of where he ends up, and it's College Station now. So excited to see this guy continue to develop into what I think is going to be a fantastic player at the next level, and then probably the next level after that.
Yeah, well, we all used to be a lot thinner, Jarrett. So, we all look back and sometimes smile and sometimes like, here we go.
Yeah, but Z's gains have been phenomenal. Our gains have been less encouraging.
Right. We look back and say what could have been, and then Zyron's like, man, I really, I stepped up my game. But to each their own. Listen, you kind of hit on it. He, he's not the biggest, most imposing edge defender. He's really more of the athletic, super bendy, probably the most bendy edge players in this particular class. Super smooth, turns the corner really well. I think you can have him with a hand in the dirt, but I think he can stand up as well. And again, not to keep harping on the same things, but between Mike Elko, Elijah Robinson, Tony Girard-Eddy, they got a lot of defensive line-minded coaches in that room who think the world of this young man. Having seen him, I remember back seeing him when he was at Jesuit, not to keep breaking your heart, but you saw all the upside, kind of like an athlete trying to figure out his position. I think IMG was great for him in terms of his body transformation. I know he got a little bit sick over the last couple of months, but he's reshaping his body. Will be back in form for his senior season, but I think his best years are ahead of him, getting coached by those guys in College Station.
And you'll be able to hear more about Zyron throughout the next several months as we launch the new Zyron Forstall podcast, The Bendy Edge, on LouisianaForstall.com. Speaking of fantastic prospects in Louisiana, and a guy that actually this year also transferred schools, we talked about it going into last Thursday's announcement. Javon Vital Jr. now over at Lake Charles College Prep. We expected a USC commitment there on April 2nd, and that did indeed hold true. He's very excited about the opportunity out there on the West Coast. Coach Jones coaching the running backs out there with the Trojans. I think that program did a great job of making Mama Stacy Jones feeling really comfortable about the opportunity that was there for Javon. They compared him to Joe Mixon on a visit, which spoke some volumes from Lincoln Riley and company. But your takeaway of seeing the announcement, the Vital family, the Lake Charles community, as much as I think a lot of folks would love to have seen him in purple and gold at the next level, are super ecstatic about what the future holds for, one of their most talented prospects to come out of Southwest Louisiana in recent years.
I don't know if you made it over to Lake Charles, but I ended up getting included on the broadcast through the Rivals YouTube channel, which was a pleasant surprise. But
I was peeking in when Coach Washington was on the phone trying to make sure they were set up. I was like, is that Sam on there? Hold up, what's going on? And I'm trying to
I was like, it was an unexpected treat. I say I don't get them all the time, but I was delighted to talk about what a fantastic player he is. And when you think about, certain offenses where you'd love to see Javon thrive in, USC is on that short list. I'm sure you could attest. McNeese State replaced LSU with the cap on the table, and then he had Kentucky, Houston, and USC. And when you think about the offenses, besides with the exception, of course, of McNeese, Houston, Kentucky with Will Stein, Houston with Willie Fritz, and Keyshawn Henderson coming in, and then USC with Lincoln Riley. Those are the offenses that are geared for someone with Javon's skill set that can do so many things. I know he's listed as a top, 40 running back in the country or so. He is so much more than a running back. He's a true athlete. We talked about his impact not only as a runner, which of course he has blazing speed to the edge and can make plays on the perimeter. He's an elite pass catcher. He's shown that at ample occasions. You can use him in the slot. You can use him on gadget plays. He can stretch the field for you. He has that ability to win over the top. And of course, my favorite element of any explosive player like Javon is the special teams, the return skills. And you think about a creative coach like Lincoln Riley, who's going to curate plays for him to be such an asset out of the backfield, whether he's an every down player or you move him around the formation. I'm stoked for him, for his family, the Lake Charles community. Excited to see what him and Aiden Carter over at LCCP do on offense this year. I'm expecting to see them make their push toward the dome. So is Tucker.
Two of the most explosive playmakers in the state this past fall, and now they're going to be on the same team this fall. And so I'm looking forward to getting out to an LCCP game at some point this year. I know those guys are really excited about just the dynamic of opposing defenses having to worry about both of them. And Javon's point as a prospect that's now committed to USC, he does such a great job of creating space for himself. And then if you can get him the ball with any kind of space, he can be a highlight reel waiting to happen. We've seen it for 3 years now at Hamilton Christian, and really looking forward to what's ahead this fall. And then obviously beyond. Anytime a top prospect in Louisiana ends up committing to anyone but LSU, and certainly when there's two guys that are Louisiana natives in the span of less than 48 hours, I think there's always kind of that, okay, what should the concern level be? Where were kind of the recruiting priorities at this point? Were they as highly prioritized by LSU as maybe they once were, particularly now with the new coaching staff and all of those things? Do you have concern levels right now, I guess, particularly for the 27 class as Lane Kiffin and company get started recruiting the high school ranks in Louisiana, to see two guys that were once the earliest targets of the previous staff in the state, that they're now heading out of state for college?
No.
Good.
If you're an LSU fan, you should just stay tuned. It's going to be a fun month in Baton Rouge. They're cooking. Listen, I know did I do a good job of creating the drama with the one-word answer?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're trying to make them subscribe to Rivals and find out who's next, because Lane Kiffin sent out the bat signal last night. And listen, they have had a ton of talent across the state, across the region, from Georgia, Florida, California, Mississippi, Alabama, Texas. Lane Kiffin and the staff are out to work. They've had kids on campus every single day since, I believe it was March 23rd or so, 22nd, 23rd. That includes all the 5 stars in the state: Easton Royal, Albert Simeon, Ahmad Hudson, blue chippers like Braylon Kalai and Miguel Whitley and Jaden Anding. They're leaving no stones unturned. We've talked about their work in the 2028 class. And then, of course, with, blue chippers in the 2027 class out of state, like Caden Moss, who they're in a great spot with, and others, Taylon Mayo, we've talked about. They arrived in December, in January, and by April, as these spring events are cooking, they've had big weekends. They are making progress. They have commitments in the canon and that are going to come out in the public in the next couple of weeks. They are starting to feel themselves. I know that this is cliche, but Lane Kiffin has used the term "it's different," but that is exactly what kids, what coaches, what the kids' parents are saying about Lane Kiffin, from the contrast from the last staff to now. And the last staff was headed by Brian Kelly, who was one of the most winning coaches in college football history, and had assistant coaches like Frank Wilson and Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton, who are some of the best assistants and coordinators in the country. There's a lot of new faces in town, like Lane Kiffin and the staff. Kevin Smith has gotten rave reviews. George McDonald, Eric Wolford. And then there's a lot of familiarity with Blake Baker and Coach Corey Raymond and those guys, Jake Olson, Kevin Thompson. Those guys are also have been around and done this already at LSU. They're cooking. It's just a matter of time before this class starts to come together. They have a fantastic quarterback in Pop Houston, who's doing a ton of work behind the scenes. But yeah, Javon is a fantastic player. Wasn't able to kind of make up ground as quickly. I don't know if Javon's recruitment is fully closed until signing day, but for now, looks like he's going to USC, and that'll be complete. There's other guys on LSU's board at that position. And then Zyron Forstall, LSU fell out of favor, and this new staff was too far behind to make up ground. He was going to be at LSU last weekend ended up not making that trip, committed to A&M instead. LSU's got other targets on their board. It's a new staff. They got new targets since they arrived and guys that they were after when they were at Ole Miss. So they're going to be fine when it's all said and done.
This is a kind of commitment recap heavy episode, but you mentioned a guy that, because we ended up pushing the recording to this morning, there's kind of a new update on, so we might as well get to it. Easton Royal ran a 10-200 last night as he continues to trim down his times on the track. And obviously that's one thing that Lane Kiffin was also excited about on Twitter last night. Of note, they were able to get Easton to Baton Rouge recently, a guy that committed to Texas in the fall, but this new staff has continued to push. I guess any updates on Easton following that Baton Rouge trip here recently? And also, is this dude just going to end up like breaking into the 9s in the 100? Like, how low is Easton going to go in track here? He shaved like I think like a second and a half, 2 seconds off his time in the last year and a half.
Yeah, LSU is not going to stop recruiting Easton Royal until the pen hits the paper. I don't know if they'll be able to flip him. I know that they're not going to stop trying, and I think Tennessee is the other team I'm keeping a close eye on with Easton Royal, as they made a really strong impression when they had him on campus. And not to keep tearing at LSU fans, but Tennessee did flip Tristan Keys last summer, and Easton Royal is the #1 receiver in the country this year. They have a knack for doing that. Florida and Ole Miss are also trying to pry him away from Texas. He's going to be back at Texas, I believe, next weekend. There's a chance he's back at LSU before the end of the month. That's to be determined. Nothing is set. And yeah, we're gonna talk about Easton Royal again. We've talked about him as my favorite player in the state last year. I was thinking to myself after seeing his times last night, is Easton Royal already in the same conversations as the Jamar Chase and DeCorian Moores, as guys that I've covered, and Devontae Smiths as the best receivers that I've been around? And, I can't say as much as the on the field stuff where he obviously dominates at a different clip at Brother Martin. That's not up for debate, but I can't recall any one of these receivers doing it in these camp settings where they are just in any sort of one-on-one situation where they are completely uncoverable. I think Devontae would be the best example because of all the exposure in the bootleggers to having one-on-one matchups. But I don't know. Easton Royal is going to be in that conversation. How high he is, I'm not sure, but he absolutely lit up the Under Armour camp. He did that just hours after his plane arrived in New Orleans. He's running track right now. He's not only has this long speed, but we know he has short speed and quickness and explosiveness. Whether he signs with Texas or Ole Miss or LSU or, team TBD, that dude is absolutely insane. We'll see where he gets drafted next week in our episode, because he is just something else. And, Louisiana is absolutely loaded in 2027. And to be the #1 prospect in that group speaks volumes.
Sam, giving you guys a little teaser as well. We do have a draft, kind of a fun, topic specific draft episode next week planned. And it's one that I think we're both looking forward to a lot and that folks will have a lot of fun with. Another commitment from this past week, Marcus Watson, who in Louisiana has been one of the fastest rising spring prospects, the athletic, springy wide receiver there from Central that I think is just starting to kind of hit the radar in a big way and come into his own as a player, but a multi-sport guy, also a guy that's fantastic on the track for the Wildcats. He committed on Good Friday, I believe it was, to Houston and Willie Fritz and company. What's been your, kind of growing grasp on Marcus and what he brings to the table and what an addition he was to that Houston Cougars 2027 class with his commitment here just a few days ago?
Yeah, this is what Houston does. They get guys with traits and they stack them. They went on a little bit of an Easter hunt, if you will. I just came up with that impromptu, so could be better, but I could be way worse. They added a couple of commitments from in-state local Houston area quarterback, receivers, and then Marcus out of Central, where they have recruited very, very well because of those relationships that date back to their run at Tulane. I love what Coach Fritz and that staff do at Houston. Like I said, they're going after traits, and I love that they go into Louisiana and recruit the heck out of that, that next tier of prospects like Marcus. There's someone, if they hit on that looks incredible for them, and their ability to stretch to go into places like Louisiana and different parts of Texas. But my favorite thing is the strategy they took away from Tulane is they recruit Houston first. So when they go out of state or out of that Houston metro area, they're doing it for guys that they really believe in. And Marcus is certainly one of them that they were able to secure that early commitment from. And they might be looking very smart in a couple of months when his senior season arrives.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the trajectory for that young man. I think a lot is ahead of him. And speaking of which, the guy that in a 4 commitment week that we talk about, the guy that kind of kicked all of it off on, I guess it would have been March 29th, that Sunday night, fresh off of a visit to Old Dominion. Want to give a shout out to Kendrick Joseph Jr., one of those St. James kids that we love that's been playing from very early on, has kind of gone through some injuries at times through his high school career. And so I think that kind of slowed down some of his opportunities in the offseason to get to some recruiting events. But Old Dominion lands his commitment. They're looking forward to him at safety, where they think he can be kind of a versatile guy in their defensive system. I know he's really excited about it, the opportunity there and to see his recruitment pick up some. But Old Dominion has been one of those schools out of state too this year that has been kind of peppering in a lot of offers into Louisiana. What do folks here maybe need to know about Old Dominion and what they're trying to accomplish and pulling some Louisiana talent and building their program there? Kendrick's going to be on the defensive side of the ball, but that's a program that put up some big numbers. They've got a receiver that transferred to LSU this year after a huge fall. And so there's somebody that is more on the radar right now for Louisiana recruiting fans probably than ever before.
Yeah, a little pipeline, not everyone can go play. This is what I would tell parents and coaches who don't realize it, and kids who are not self-aware, is that not everyone can go play at Tulane right out of high school, or play at LSU, or play at, Ohio State. I don't know if that's news or something that you need to realize, but schools like Old Dominion, not only you have the opportunity to play early, but you get a great education. And then guess what? Your recruitment never stops. Like you just mentioned, LSU signed a receiver or DB out of Old Dominion. They actually had multiple players go transfer out to SEC, Big Ten, ACC schools. It's so funny that as soon as you said it, it like clicked in my mind from the transfer portal just a couple of months ago. It's completely out of my mind usually, but it's a great get for them. To love them taking a chance, and Kendrick getting an opportunity, knowing that, if Tulane wasn't showing the interest by now, go somewhere where they are showing interest, get on the field early because they believe in you, get developed. And then if an opportunity presents itself, go chase it, but go where you're wanted. And Old Dominion is doing a great job of showing these Louisiana kids that they're wanted.
Go where you wanted is one of the best pieces of advice that we can give to the young guys on the recruiting trail. Don't get too sidetracked or down about waiting for what isn't there, and realize what's in front of you. For fans, this was probably not the most exciting. For Louisiana college fans, this was probably not the most exciting to hear. This guy's going to A&M, this guy's going to USC, this guy's going to Old Dominion and to Houston. But
humbug.
Stay tuned to, as Sam mentioned, what's ahead on Rivals and them covering the recruiting trail. Stay tuned on Louisiana Versailles. I'm about to hit the road down to Hanville, where they have a fantastic left-handed bat in that lineup, Cole Romero, who is committed to Jay Johnson and company here in Baton Rouge. And so certainly a lot to be excited about for prospects who are finding homes elsewhere, as well as for fans to keep an eye on about what's heading to some of these Louisiana colleges. Sam, appreciate you on a Saturday, man. He's Sam Spiegelman. I'm Jared Roser. This is Louisiana Versailles. Recruit That Boot. Y'all stay tuned to everything ahead. And until next time, y'all be well.